Well, here we are again.
Yep, here we are.
Isn't it interesting? It's just, I reckon we should call it Christmas.
I think we should just call it Christmas now too and forget about the rest of it.
Yeah, I've had enough. The year's done.
Yeah.
Yep, that sounds good, doesn't it?
It does.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Existential Cuppa. If you're joining us live, pop a comment to say hello and where you're tuning in from. We'd love to know. And today we're going to talk about stress a little bit more, but we're taking a slightly different tack with the stress and looking at the levels of stress that come from the outside in. So looking more at the fact that all of humans have this innate ability to connect, and it's through these subconscious interconnections that we actually interact and respond to each other quite strongly. And it's through these channels that the overall level of stress that's felt collectively ramps up what you're feeling individually even higher. So if that's something that you're interested in, stick around, because that's what we're going to talk about today.
That's what
that's why we're saying, it should be just Christmas. I've had enough. It's all too much, Year 12 exams, our Year 12 girls have had enough. They just want it over and done with. If all of my exams are on today, I'd just do it and get it done. And I thought, I feel a bit like that with the rest of the year. I could just do it all today and then call it Christmas.
Yes, call it Christmas and start the new year.
So shall I do our little acknowledgement, because we're broadcasting, I can't speak, broadcasting to you from the beautiful Larrakia country. So I wish to pay my respect and honour to the elders, past, present and emerging, and give my heartfelt great thanks and gratitude to the traditional owners of this place, the Larrakia people, sharing my absolute joy, the honour that I feel, and the gratitude to live in this place, to live and work in this beautiful country, giving thanks for the quality of the light, the beauty of the trees and the plants, the joy of the animals and the birds, and the connection with the people in this place. And I seek to do spirit work in accordance with the existing deep spiritual connection of this place, for the purposes of healing and enlightenment for all. So thank you all for joining us today. So I'm going to throw the ball over to you so I can get a quick drink of water. Let's talk about stress, baby.
Okay, well, today we're talking about community stress or world stress, family stress, collective stress.
Consciousness.
Collective consciousness stress. I think that the most obvious one for us currently is COVID and the amount of information that's being disseminated, the mandate for everyone to have to get vaccinated, the threats in relation to losing jobs. All of these kind of things are creating an enormous amount of stress, which everyone feels, whether they're going to get vaccinated or they're not. And it exacerbates it. I've had lots of people ring me up in a panic about it. And this kind of, everyone's feeding off everyone else's stress. And stress is contagious. And so we're becoming much more fearful about everything. I had a patient this morning that was saying to me, she's got to fly down to see her family, to help out her brother, and she's terrified about getting on the plane. So all of those people on that plane will be anxious about doing that. So stress has quite a profound effect on all of us, and then when it feeds into that collective stress, it just makes it worse. And you might be able to kind of rationalize things out for yourself and think, I'm in a good place, and then bam, something happens and it all comes rushing back. And part of that is because we've probably logically rationalized things out rather than feeling how it feels. But the fact that the things that other people do can impact on us is obviously an indication of our individual vulnerability, but also it's an indication of how much stress is around in our environment, or how in our society, how much we live with stress and how much we just accept it as being normal. And that's a big deal, I think. And it has the same effect on us. But I think the collective stress actually pushes us in a direction where we then become defensive, or we become annoyed, or we can't think straight. We can't be clear about what's important for us or our families.
You touched on two really good points, right up front there. And the idea of fear. Sorry, the cat is playing with the blind. Just being a typical cat. Fear, I think at the moment, that's the thing that's really triggering this heightened sense of stress that is being experienced in the collective consciousness.
Yeah.
So it's the primal threat response is actually what we are resorting to, because the level of fear that's kind of bouncing around and being amplified is coming in, and what we're doing is actually bypassing the logical brain and going straight to the feeling center when it comes to experiencing that additional level of fear. And you just said then about, we may have rationalized and made clear logical decisions and feel okay about certain choices that we've made about how we're going to move forward for ourselves as an individual. But then we still find ourselves, feeling like you've just been dumped by a big wave or something.
That's a good way to describe it, I would say.
When all of a sudden, somehow, the collective level of stress and fear finds its way back into your quiet little sanctuary that you've spent time building. So, and I think this is a really important point that you raise. When we do make these decisions about how to move forward in a way that feels comfortable and safe for us, we do actually need to take that into the body and be absolutely clear through body feeling about whether that is actually
true,
the best way forward, and not what our analytical mind says in, doing the pros and cons column, or however you like to do it. But, you can make that top level decision and then take it down into the heart and really sit with that and feel how it feels. Well, I think feeling is truth. So once you get it to that point where you think logically it's clear, you want to take it down into your heart or your feeling center, and then you want to feel how that feels and recognize that that is actually your truth. And then after that, it's less likely that we'll be impacted by the external fears that are running around us at the moment. And I think that's a really important thing. I think also too, it's very exhausting. Fear is a very exhausting emotion. And so it is unnecessary if we stay in the present moment. But most of us are jumping into the future thinking, well, what does this mean for us? I had this conversation with another patient today about, we don't know when we open up to the rest of Australia, what's going to happen to us up here in the Northern Territory, where we've been really safe and secure. We don't know what's going to happen. So we're waiting for that to happen. We're always waiting for things to happen. So when we wait, we're moving into the future, and that's where we feel the fear. If we stay in the present moment, it's much easier not to feel the fear. So practicing that present moment stuff, I think, is really important in helping us to manage that fear and stay centered in that heart space where we can actually know the truth. And the truth doesn't have to be what everybody else says it is. It just has to be truth. It just has to be your truth, and you have to feel confident enough to know that that's the way to do it. Yeah, absolutely. And I guess, one way to really appreciate or acknowledge or understand when you've found that truth for yourself is, even in the face of external influence, it's unshaken. Where if you find yourself wafting and waving over a decision, one day, yes, I'm definitely doing it this way. Next day, no, maybe I should do it this way. Then you're still stuck in the brain's processing or the analytical self rather than the heartfelt self.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important that we also remember the instinctive self.
Yeah, I think our intuition is really the way that we understand or the way that we listen to what our body is telling us. And our body, the feeling is actually the truth. I think if we accept that the feeling is the truth, it then becomes much easier to recognize that, or to, use our analytical mind or use our intellect to come up with solutions, and then choose that solution based around how it feels or what it feels.
Yeah, I like to think about it, as the analytical brain is, what do I think about this? The heart center is, what do I feel about this? Oh, there's my daughter. Hi. And she's stuck because the door's stuck. And then there's the instinct center. What action do I need to take?
Yes.
So, if we use all three of these powerful centers in our decision-making process, then we can get a lot of clarity, but it takes practice. And we have been geared and programmed since birth to just rest in the analytical brain. So it does take a bit of perseverance and practice. And I guess in the present environment, there's a sense of we don't have time to wait. Everything has to happen now.
Yeah.
So the first step that I would invite people to take is, question, is this the only way? And is now necessarily when it needs to happen? And that might be for COVID in particular, but any of the decisions that you need to make, it's about timing, it's about what's right for you, and it's about what action is right for you.
And I think flow, if we look at flow as a means of helping us to discern the action, so if something is easy to do, then we're in flow and it's easier for us to manage. And also flow comes from being present too. So, being clear about being present. And once we flow, it becomes much simpler and much easier to do.
Yeah.
And the action is often determined by that, I think.
Yeah. And so, you've talked about being present in the moment. And obviously things like mindfulness practice and meditation practice are really beautiful things that help train you how to do this. Hi, Roz. Thanks so much for joining us. But, I think what's really valuable here is, rather than thinking of bookending your days with these particular types of practices, it's a bit like, when you're doing a yoga practice, is what am I learning on the mat that I can take into my day and employ in my day? It's the same thing with these practices. Where the benefit really starts to happen is when you can stop and go, right, well, where am I at the moment? What am I actually thinking? What am I noticing? And a real good place to do that is the car. How many times have you got in the car and got to wherever you're going and gone, oh,
how did I do that?
How did I do that? So taking the practices that you're doing and actually starting to integrate them into the day, and taking the time to actually notice and call yourself back into the present, whether it's just a matter of sitting, noticing the breath for a couple of minutes, noticing the sensations of the body that goes with that, noticing what you hear and feel around you, to just really come back to the present moment and acknowledge, right now, there's no need to worry. There is no fear. Right now, I am perfectly safe. This is a really nice way to just keep yourself grounded and centered as you move through your day. Every now and then, just stop, tune in. So Roz is saying she's just settled for the afternoon and saw we are live. Go and grab yourself a cup of tea and join the convo. It's lovely to have you here, Roz.
I think trust is really important too. I think trusting yourself to know what's the right thing for you to do. But I think, and we can get confused when we're looking at that the stress that overlays everything. So the community stress, the way other people are feeling, all of that kind of stuff can impact on our capacity to know that this is actually okay for us to feel this way, or, we feel this way, which is different to everybody else. And I think we have to trust ourselves to know that, yes, there's always going to be stresses around, but we need to allow for other people to have their opinion and not buy into their drama, and acknowledge that our opinion is different to that. And I think that's a really important thing that we need to do.
Yeah.
And that, I think, takes practice as well, because we don't trust ourselves because we've been conditioned not to. And so I find one of the most amazing things for me was realizing that I can trust myself, and then allowing myself to actually trust myself. And that made a big difference to how I function today, which I think is really, really good. So that's a really good, I think trusting is a really important part of that whole process. So the practice, yes, absolutely. But with that practice, going with it and going, I'm building my trust in myself. And, we trust ourselves in different areas of our life.
Absolutely.
But I think we should just have, a big umbrella where we just trust ourselves with everything. And if trusting doesn't mean we blindly go about, doing things without getting information, it just means that we're able to make our own choices or our own decisions in relation to what that information is or that moment in time is.
Yeah, and sometimes it's also having the courage to acknowledge exactly what you're feeling in the face of all the information that's coming into you, or all the pressure that might be coming from family members about certain things. Like, I can remember signing the contract for an investment property with my husband, and on the day I was so unsettled. I had nervous sweat, I was shaking, I felt sick to my stomach, and I'm just sitting here going, this is absolutely the wrong thing for me to do. But all the wheels were in motion. We'd done all the groundwork, we'd done all the hard work. We were actually at the point of signing the contract. And as my pen hit the paper, I was like, I really don't want to do this. But I didn't have the courage or the faith in my own knowing at that point in my life to say, this is a really bad idea, let's not do this.
Yeah.
And so we did actually go through a bit of financial stress for quite a while, because I didn't stand up in my own truth at that point in time and say, no, this is not the right thing. This is not right for me to do right now.
But I think those experiences for us actually help us work out that we do have courage. That was a mistake that I made, but I'm not going to do it again. So I think those kind of things are really, coffee and chocolate. Yes, please.
Oh, I know. I saw that.
Yes.
Yeah, we've all done that, I think. Well, no, that's not a fair thing to say we've all done that, but I think we've all been in a similar situation of making a fairly major decision and going along with it, even though we absolutely knew this is not the right thing. But you go along because you've got maybe an invested person who this is very important to them, or whatever the reason is.
I think a lot of the time that's what it is.
Yeah.
Particularly when you're talking about relationships, I think a lot of the time it is you're trying to meet that other person's need and negate your own, which is not a good idea. I think also too, when we do those kinds of things, it actually comes down to us letting ourselves down, and that creates more stress for ourselves, But in the long run, we learn from everything we do, don't we?
Absolutely.
So that's a good, the silver lining. No, but the silver lining, I think, of all these kinds of decisions that we make through our life is that we learn. So,
and I think it also gives you that experience of feeling what your truth is, and what it's like to go against your truth.
Yes.
So that you do have the opportunity to start building that trust. It's like that little deposit of trust in self.
Indeed,
in
that's
my
a good idea. That's
bank,
a good. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Definitely,
memory deposit.
Yeah.
So, and Roz is saying, we actually learn lots from the mistakes.
Indeed.
Absolutely. If you keep getting it right, what are you going to learn? Hey, a learning experience teaches us to stand up and not repeat it. Absolutely. Yeah, totally agree.
So how do we then manage when we go into a space where there is a lot of fear associated, or there's a way that people think in that space, and they can't move outside of that paradigm that they're in? And so, we might go in feeling positive, we might go in feeling comfortable. How then do we manage not getting connected to their drama or their space or their view of the world? How do we do that? And I think
a great question.
One of the things we have to do is not have an expectation.
Yeah.
I think let go of all the expectations, so that we can just enjoy being with that other spiritual being, even if our views are different.
Yeah.
It's okay to, I was God, I've had today with my patients, it's been very enlightening, because my last patient before now, we were talking about this, and I think she loves her husband, but some of his behaviors have not been great. And we were talking about this, and I pointed out to her that she can actually still love her husband and not like his behaviors, but still be connected or love the spiritual being that he is. And I think going in, when we have this overarching fear and this overarching, stress that's all around us, environmentally, it's not about, it's about just going in and seeing people as spiritual beings, and not then, associating a particular label with them. And connecting with that spiritual being and getting whatever it is we need to get out of it. I think the other thing about that too is that if we're not connecting or we can't connect, so if we're being truly honest with ourselves and we can't connect, then like you say, I think it comes down to there is another way.
Yeah.
What is that other way?
Yeah.
How do we do this?
Yeah.
So we ask for help. We hand it up to the universe and we ask for help. We ask for some more information so that we can actually do it.
Yeah. Or you call it in the moment.
Yeah,
call in the help. So, but I mean, I think a lot of what we're talking about here are practices and skills that each of us are doing in our own way, that bring us to a point of self-mastery. So for us to be operating as a connected and spiritual being, it really is a journey of self-exploration, self-knowledge, and learning self-love and self-respect, so that you are able to open space within yourself to really acknowledge, I'm a spiritual being. Here's a spiritual being over here. Put my hand in the camera. Here's a spiritual being over here. And I see beyond all of the stories that they're telling themselves and telling the world to what's actually deep inside. And that can help as well. But let's pull it back to tin tacks. I mean, we started off talking the conversation about fear and being influenced, because we are connected beings, by the vibrational pattern that's coming through from the collective conscious or the environment that we happen to be in. So I think it's really important here that we do acknowledge that the human body is built from the ground up, literally, for connection. We have so many different ways of connecting through the physical body, through the emotional body, and through the energetic body. So I think we just take it as given that we are all highly empathic and highly sensitive and able to switch in to the information flow in the energy field. It's just some of us recognize it and some of us don't.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the case. I actually think that everybody recognizes it to some degree. They just don't understand it.
Yeah.
They feel they can feel things, but they don't understand why. They're thinking too much. They're not just trusting. They're thinking too much.
Yeah.
And one of the things I think you mentioned there, or one of the words I think that is extremely important, is to forgive ourselves for how we respond to our environment when we get stressed. So to forgive how we feel. So we think, we have to forgive other people for their bad behavior. We don't actually. We just have to forgive ourselves for how we feel about what they've done, or forgive ourselves for thinking something or doing something or responding to something in a way that, perhaps in our framework, our society, isn't appropriate or whatever. But we just need to always be forgiving ourselves so that we free that burden up. We free and create that space.
Yeah.
So that we can actually then allow that spiritual process or that sensation or feeling or whatever language we want to use to come through and to be honored. And I often say to people, gratitude is wonderful, but I love the word honor, because honor suggests equality, whereas gratitude often suggests there's a differentiation.
Differentiation?
It is a real word.
It is a real word. Yeah, you did well.
there's when we're grateful to somebody, it sometimes indicates that somebody's less than the other.
And sometimes there is a sense of obligation in that word.
Yeah.
I mean, we want it to be an open and divine word, but I think the way we employ it in the Western world, there is a sense of obligation attached.
I agree.
To gratitude.
I agree.
But just coming back to, the being able to do all this, I mean, ultimately, I guess we're aiming to reach a point of self-mastery where we are able to tap into our strongest gift, trait, value, trust, whatever it is you want to call it. And that is by being able to stand present in the moment and open the space around us so that we have the power of choice. Our free will and the power of choice is the most potent skill, gift, talent, energy, whatever it is you want to call it, that each and every one of us has the right to, right? But to attain this, to really obtain our free will and the power of choice, we need to be able to stand in our space, in the moment.
And be comfortable.
And, well, yeah, I mean, if you're in the space in the moment,
one hopes you're comfortable.
In the ever-present now, where it is.
It
just is.
Yeah.
That gives you that power, that opening up. Every moment you have choice. You have so much choice. It's
freedom.
Incredible.
Yeah.
This is it. This is where freedom stands. This is where our potency stands. But that's a long journey for some of us. I'm still working my way towards that. So I thought we might start with some really practical stuff.
Yep.
Some really easy practical stuff to just help you feel more contained and secure as you deal with, the outside world. And particularly, I'm really thinking about, there was a lady who joined us last week who feels a very high level of anxiety, particularly when she goes to shopping centres. So I think that's a really good example to start with, because that's so tangible and a lot of us can relate to it. So there's a couple of things that we can do. Do you want to share one of your favourite ones, and then I'll share one of my favourite ones? Or do you want me to start?
You start first, and then that gives me more time to think about what I would do.
Okay, so I'm going to work from the assumption here that everybody watching this video has some level of experience working energetically, or, working with guides, or working with psychic type ability and skill. Pretty bold assumption, I know, but it is the Existential Cuppa, and this is the realm that we deal in. So the thing that I used to really do when I was first moving into the world of Reiki was I would find shopping centres extremely difficult to work with. I'm a highly sensitive, highly strung, highly intuitive, all the highs that, really exacerbate things.
No, you have to be to do the work that you do.
And on top of that, I was one of those empathic people that walked around wide open. I had my field wide open, picking up everybody's shit, basically. So that's the first thing, I think, is to acknowledge that, yes, if you're highly empathic, that's wonderful, but it's also not great, because chances are you have got yourself walking around wide open, picking up stuff that you really shouldn't be. It's not your responsibility to carry what other people are feeling. So first things first is a daily practice, or even when you're just coming into the shopping centre, sitting in your car for a couple of minutes before you actually get out and go into the shops, imagining, sensing, feeling, whatever it is, your energy field coalescing in around you and compacting. And you will feel a sense when it's working. You'll feel a sense of, oh, suddenly I've got less room around me. And I'm a kid from the North Queensland. I used to run around in wide open spaces. So I guess that's why I used to have a wide open field. It's because I was used to space and not having much impinge on me. But, when you come into crowds and cities and busy places, you do tend to have to pull it together. So you literally pull yourself together before you go to the shops and imagine a white light all around the outside of your aura. So imagine you're encased in a white bubble, if you like, and I use the word bubble. You don't want a hard thing. You want something that's gently rubberized. So when you do have impactful things coming your way, they're just gently pushed away. They're not flicked off really hard. I don't actually need to take that on. That's not mine. You can have it. That's one thing. It's really quick and easy, and surprisingly, very effective.
I agree. It is very effective. And the other thing you can do is stick out the spikes.
I used to go for the soft foam spikes just because I didn't want to.
Big titanium ones. Okay, so
no, I had my wolf for that.
I suppose the other side of that is color or crystals. So red, deep red, is a color for protection, and so carrying something that's red on you, wearing a garnet ring, a red garnet ring, or a ruby, dressing with some kind of red on you, or even carrying some kind of red crystal that you resonate with in your bag, in your back pocket, in your bra, all of those kind of things is really, really handy to help give you some protection from the energies in the supermarket. Or in the shopping centre. It doesn't really matter where you are. I always carry with me deep red, some kind of deep red. I'm using an Aurosoma colour at the moment that I just spray on and then wipe through my aura. But any kind of red crystal, anything like that kind of helps to contain your energy and to help you feel protected, and not squashed, I suppose. So our shopping centre up here, Casuarina, is quite loud and noisy and smelly and all of those kind of things. So whenever I walk in, I put on the deep red. But I always carry something red with me. I wear a red ring. I don't really wear red because it doesn't suit me too much. But, I always have something red with me. And that seems to work really well. And that's just a really simple thing that you can engage with to help give you some protection. And so I think that's an alternative. I think doing both, doing what Linda said and doing, and having something red is a really good idea. It doesn't have to be that bad. If we want to go for an old-fashioned thing, St. Christopher is another thing that can be really protective. In both my cars, I have given to me by my aunt-in-law a St. Christopher that sits on the dashboard that just protects us, and it's really interesting. When we had a crash and a kangaroo ran into us, the St. Christopher was on the other side of the car. It was just, that bit of the car didn't get damaged, the other bit did. It didn't have St. Christopher on it. So I think, anything that you resonate with, anything that makes you feel safe, anything that makes you feel secure is actually a really good thing. And, sometimes just having that, if I'm in a rush, I don't even have to do anything. I know it's there. I just rush in, do what I need to do and get out. But the red has, helped me feel less shattered by going in there. And so that's, I think, really another option that we could consider trying.
And we did mention before calling in help. So even just calling on the archangels to perhaps encase you in protection or to walk with you. I was saying jokingly before when Marg started, I used to send my wolf out, instead of putting spikes out of my aura. So what I meant by that was I was really strongly connected with a power animal many years ago, a grey wolf. So I would invite him to come to the shop with me because I'm one of those people that, you walk through the shop and people just aim at you, trolleys, whatever. It's like they can't see you. So I used to invite my wolf to walk in front of me. And I would imagine that I was wearing a white cloak of protection as well. And that was really nice because that really spoke to my imagination. It spoke to my past life connection with, a shaman in a previous life and having a wolf and a horse and an eagle, that sort of thing. So it really Yeah, that really spoke to me quite well. But the interesting thing is, whenever I had the wolf walk in front of me, I never had anybody walk into me. You know, there was just a path cleared for me automatically. It was beautiful. So I guess it really depends on, you know, what are the types of things that really talk to you, that really speak to you? What sort of help do you want to call in? Are you someone that works with colour? Are you someone that is called to crystals?
Yeah.
Are you someone who's called to fragrance? You know, essential oils are another beautiful way
Indeed.
to, you know, add just an extra layer of bolstering to your own self. But I think it's really important that if we are experiencing quite significant reaction to being in crowded areas, that we really start looking at, well, how am I holding myself energetically? I think that it's really, really key, because that opens up to a lot of pathogenic influence as well.
Indeed. And I think, you know, the more we move up the totem pole, the more we move up in terms of our energy, or the more we expand our energy awareness, the less able we are to go into places like that, unless we are protected, unless we feel like we've got something around us to support us in that process, which is quite a normal, natural thing as well. It really just comes down to doing what you need to do when you need to do it. I rarely go into Casuarina these days unless I've got a list of things I have to do, and then after that, just one thing after another, and then I get out and generally have to have a shower afterwards. So,
look, I know this is going to sound a little domestic, I guess, and, you know, I am an independent, feisty, feminist-style woman.
Indeed you are.
But I will often save up the things that I have to do for the weekend and go with my husband, because my husband has very solid, grounded energy.
Yeah.
And he's literally my shield, you know. So on those days when I do feel particularly vulnerable, then I will ask him to come with me. And it can be something as simple as that. Now, I know that sounds rather dependent.
I actually think that's very clever. I think that's a really good thing.
You know, it can be as simple as that. If you have a friend or a family member or a partner or whatever who's completely unaffected by crowded spaces, you know, and who, when you are in their presence, you feel the solidity of their presence, that can be a really quick, easy way for you to duck into the shops, get what you need, and duck out again. Yeah,
and I think, you know, energetic people who are conscious of their energy tend to hold space for other people. So we feel how they feel, and then we hold space for them. So we tend to do this with our families, you know, and the people that we care about or we're connected to.
Yeah.
But we also do this for other people. And if it's not in the right space, and a shopping centre isn't the right space, then it actually it drains our energy really quickly. And so then we don't have the energy we need to give to the people around us or anything like that. So that you know, the recognition that we don't need to, that we can hold on to our own energy, is actually really important too.
Yeah, and I think, you know, that really ties into the first really important point about knowing what your responsibility is.
Yeah.
And knowing that if you are walking around wide open, I mean, it's not actually your responsibility to hold space for somebody else.
No, it's not. But we tend to.
You know, and I think that's the thing. We need to be mindful. Oh, look what I'm doing. Nope, stop that.
And I think some of the time, you know, if we're not prepared, like you said, you know, you're open and people would walk through, you know, they'd come straight at you. Part of that is they're wanting to connect in with your energy. Because you're wanting, you know, you're sharing it. And again, I think when we start learning this, or we begin to understand our own energetic aspect, we do want to share. We want to experience how sharing feels. And so we do that. What we forget is that there's a cost in doing that. So we have to choose. We have to become more discerning and choose, you know, who we share it with and who we don't. And it's actually okay to do that.
Yeah.
And, you know, we don't have to share it with everybody all of the time.
Yeah, absolutely. But we are connected all the time.
Indeed.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah. I think also too, you know, one of the things that I do, it's really interesting if I've got one of my kids with me, I'll go into a shop and they'll go, oh, there's Linda over there. And I'll go, where is she? Because I'm blinkered, because I've made a conscious decision to stay focused in this field and do the things I need to do and get out. And so I don't even realize Linda could walk straight past me and say hi, and I would go, oh, hi, Linda.
Oh, look, yeah. I do that all the time. There are so many people who I've offended because, in the supermarket even, in the same aisle, and I've gone straight past and they've gone, hi, and I'm straight past, and I get to the end of the aisle and go, does somebody just wave at me? And turn around and go, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't even notice.
So I think, there's lots of different things that we can do. And I think that's a very productive thing. I need to work on that one.
Yeah.
I think that's just something I automatically did, particularly when my kids were young and I had a runner. I had to stay focused on her.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just trying to read Roz's comment. It's about making our choices. Absolutely.
It is indeed, Roz.
It all comes back to choice, but it also comes back to giving ourselves appropriate space to make that choice.
Yeah, and keeping it simple, just keeping it simple. So we don't have to overtax ourselves or anybody else. We just want it to be simple. And often the first thing that comes into our mind is the right thing that comes into our mind, or the first thing we feel is the right thing, and so it's, again, I think it's really important to just go with that and not get pulled into the fear and start doubting ourselves. It doesn't have to be that. We don't have to live a complicated life. We can live a busy life, but it doesn't have to be complicated. So we want it just to flow. And if it's not flowing, we need to sit back and look at where we are. Are we in the past? Are we in the future? Okay, well, we need to come back to the present. And once we realize that, we're already back in the present, and give ourselves permission just to be, practice that spiritual feeling. I'm a spiritual being. Cool. Awesome. That makes me feel great. It means I don't have to dislike anybody because of their behavior. It means I can engage with everybody, and it relieves so much pressure and tension out of our world when we don't have to rationalize why we don't want to do something or we don't like something. We just don't. It's not the right thing for us to do right now. It might be next week, but it isn't right now, and that's okay.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And that gives us space to breathe.
Yeah.
So
I think we might have
covered that too.
Yeah. I think we've covered. Are there any questions? Like, Roz, have you got anything you want to add in there? You've been drinking your coffee and eating your chocolates.
I hope they were nice chocolates.
I hope they were nice chocolates too. I'm thinking of pure indulgence. Oh, yes, the KISS principle.
Yep.
Yes, absolutely. It applies to spirituality as much as it applies to business planning and
to everything.
Christmas shopping. And
yes, it being Christmas now too.
Yeah, so, with Christmas coming up, have a think about how you want to approach the crowds and how you want to approach she hasn't got to the chockies yet. I will enjoy them. I'm sure they're delicious. Delicious.
Yes. So if we have to venture out, how do we want to approach Christmas? Do we want it to be fun and enjoyable? Do we want it to be stressed? And a lot of the time we buy into the stress or we buy into, what other people are saying or feeling about Christmas and turning it into something that it doesn't have to be for us. So we can make it anything we want it to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But, it doesn't have to be just Christmas. It can be your day.
Yeah.
When you wake up in the morning.
Indeed, it can be.
You can choose, And I think it's Joe Dispenza who says we're living in the past. You get up every day and you're in your automatic program that you've been doing since you were 7, basically. He said all your new experiences are done by 7 and, you're pretty much just on autopilot and every day you're living in the past. So the challenge is to wake up in the morning and ask yourself, well, who am I today and what is different?
And the wonderful thing about that is the day hasn't been touched yet.
Yeah.
So
you have the choice.
Indeed, we do. You're absolutely right, Roz.
Yes. It's all about choices.
It is indeed.
Yes, and keeping it simple. All right, well, we are going to toddle off. and leave you all with that idea of choice and simplicity. And for Roz enjoying her chockies on a Friday afternoon, bliss. Thank you so much. All the new moments ahead. Yeah, that's right. We haven't actually done all this before.
Pure joy.
It is all new. And if we are truly in the moment, then it's all new all the time. Even our relationships are all new all the time.
Yeah, that's true. That's wonderful.
Yeah, that's how you start bringing some joy back in.
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you so much for your company, Roz. Thank you for the other people who've been dropping in and out. If questions come up, please pop them in the comments. I'm more than happy to come back and answer those. And look forward to chatting with you next time on the Existential Cuppa.
And if you've got any ideas about next week, let us know.
Yeah, sure.
Because we haven't got any at the moment.
Yeah, but, that'll change.
It will, yeah. Something will pop up.
It always does. Okay, bye for now. Have a beautiful
later.
weekend. We'll see you next time. Where's the off button? They've moved it.
No, you just stop.